It's been 6 years since EA acquired a 10-year deal for the exclusive rights to develop Star Wars video games, and so far we've seen them make minimal use of the license. Between the cancellation of Visceral's Star Wars game and the release of 2 Battlefront games that launched to tepid responses, this deal has felt mostly like a missed opportunity up until this point. But finally, with Jedi Fallen Order, EA have delivered a truly great Star Wars game that lives up to the hype. Jedi Fallen Order is not only the best Star Wars game in over a decade, it's one of the best Star Wars games of all time. It strikes a wonderful balance of capturing the feeling of Star Wars whilst creating an experience in the universe unlike any game before it. Perhaps it shouldn't be a surprise that Jedi Fallen Order is as good as it is when you look at the pedigree of developer Respawn Entertainment. Respawn are the team behind games like the massively popular Apex Legends and the critically acclaimed Titanfall 2. However, a third-person action game is certainly not the genre they traditionally work within, with both the aforementioned games being first-person shooters. But they certainly pulled it off. Playing this game, it's hard to believe that it's their first attempt at this genre. In Jedi Fallen Order, you play as Cal Kestis, a Padawan survivor of Order 66, played by Gotham's Cameron Monaghan. For the past 5 years, Cal has been working on a junkyard planet, hiding from the Empire. Unfortunately for Cal, an incident while working causes him to use his Force abilities to save a friend's life, which draws the Empire's forces to him, dragging him back into the conflict. Many people were skeptical about Cal as a protagonist, thinking that he seemed a little generic, but by the time the credits rolled, I'd grown to really like Cal, thanks to both Cameron Monaghan's acting and Cal's growth as a Jedi over the course of the game. On his journey, Cal teams up with a diverse and engaging cast of characters. Some of the standouts are Seer, a former Jedi whose tragic history slowly unravels over the course of the story, Grease, the often snarky pilot of your ship, and your droid companion BD-1, who has quickly become one of my favourite droids in the Star Wars universe. Through nothing but beeps and gestures, BD-1 manages to convey so much personality. While Jedi Fallen Order doesn't necessarily feature the most complex narrative, it's still filled with fulfilling character development for both Cal and his supporting cast, and emotionally resonant moments that feel earned. There's also a couple of cameos from familiar faces that I won't spoil that allow the game to connect to the greater Star Wars canon, but in a way that feels much more natural than the forced cameos of Battlefront 2's campaign. The major antagonist of Fallen Order is an Inquisitor known as the Second Sister. An Inquisitor's job is to track down and execute any Jedi who survived the destruction of the Jedi Order. While this is a simple premise for a villain, the Second Sister manages to excel as an antagonist thanks to her menacing presence and riveting backstory. The best part of Jedi Fallen Order's story for me is undeniably its final hour. The story culminates in one of the most exhilarating and intense endings I've ever experienced in a game. Jedi Fallen Order wears its inspirations on its sleeve. Between opening shortcuts to more quickly navigate areas, the bonfire-like meditation points that cause enemies to respawn when rested at, and the fact that you have to go back to your point of death and confront the enemy who killed you to regain the experience you lose upon death, it's clear Respawn were heavily influenced by From Software's Souls games, and with a lot of story beats being punctuated by epic set pieces, it's hard to not draw a comparison to Uncharted as well. If you're going to draw inspiration from other games, Dark Souls and Uncharted are certainly good examples to pull from. In fact, they're 2 of my favourite franchises of all time. Combat is my favourite aspect of Jedi Fallen Order's gameplay. The mechanics are deep, varied and flexible. Simply mashing the square button to hack away at enemies will lead to a swift death. Instead, you need to be patient and take battles on in a more slow and deliberate manner. You need to be thinking about timing your lightsaber strikes well, looking for opportunities to parry your opponents, and mixing in your force abilities to make enemies vulnerable if you want to succeed in some of Jedi Fallen Order's tougher battles. Your lightsaber is an incredibly versatile weapon in Fallen Order, and you continue to unlock new ways to use it pretty much all the way to the end of the game. I won't spoil the various abilities for your lightsaber in case you haven't seen them, but just know there's far more depth to the lightsaber combat than just the light and heavy swings you start with. BD-1 also plays a part in fights, as he has healing stims that can be used to refill your health, and he can also be used to hack enemy droids to turn them against their allies. Killing enemies in Fallen Order rewards you with experience that adds up to give you skill points, which can be spent in the skill tree at meditation points. These skills include increasing your maximum health or force energy, strengthening your force powers, or unlocking new combat abilities. You earn skill points at a pretty good rate, and by the end of the game I'd unlocked the vast majority of the skills. If you're going to draw inspiration from the Souls games, which are famous for their excellent boss battles, you'd better deliver some great bosses. And Jedi Fallen Order definitely does. There are some truly epic and memorable boss battles in Jedi Fallen Order that push you to use all the skills at your disposal. Jedi Fallen Order's enemy variety is also impressive. A lot of action games can grow repetitive due to facing the same kind of enemy over and over again. Fallen Order avoids this by offering a plethora of enemy types. There's Enforcer droids, AT-STs, giant spiders, and of course an array of stormtroopers, just to name a few. Whether in combat or out of combat, Cal's force powers are a blast to use, and they're also crucial to navigating Fallen Order's environments. For example, you can use your force push to break down walls, or you can use your force pull to bring out of reach vines to you. Force powers are doled out at a nice pace throughout the roughly 15-hour story of Jedi Fallen Order, making it feel like you're becoming a more well-rounded Jedi over time, and giving you the opportunity to backtrack to prior planets to explore previously inaccessible areas. Which is definitely worth doing, because through exploring you can find cosmetic items like new clothing options for Cal, skins for your ship or BD-1, and new lightsaber parts. You can even find upgrades that enhance Cal's maximum health or force energy, or allow BD-1 to carry more stims to heal you with. I love the amount of depth when it comes to customizing your lightsaber. I was surprised by just how many customization options the game offers. Being able to make my own lightsaber gave me a far deeper attachment to it. Between customizing my lightsaber, BD-1, my ship and my outfit, Jedi Fallen Order let me infuse my own personality into the protagonist in a way that very few other Star Wars games have. Something else you can discover throughout Fallen Order's different planets are items that relate to one of Cal's force abilities. Cal has the power of psychometry. This allows Cal to get a glimpse into the history of an item just by touching it. These collectibles are often great pieces of exposition and a nice way of adding to the Star Wars lore for people like me who want to spend the time to find them all. Fallen Order's world design is excellent, both aesthetically and in terms of navigating environments. The game effortlessly guides you from area to area with a combination of climbing, sliding down slopes, swinging on vines and wall running, all of which are fun individually but are taken to a whole other level when you're combining them all back to back in the later portion of the game. There's a respectable amount of geographical variety in Fallen Order as well, as you explore a series of different planets. Each planet has its own unique feel, and I found myself continuing to explore them long after I finished the story. Now up until this point, I've mostly been singing Jedi Fallen Order's praises, but it's certainly not a perfect game due to a lack of polish in certain areas. I encountered several technical issues in the game. On multiple occasions, I entered an area filled with enemies only for them to not acknowledge me at all. They'd simply stand around waiting to be killed. The game's frame rate also dips occasionally, and upon entering a new area, the game often hitches for a couple of seconds. And while most of the character models look great, there are a couple that don't. The Wookiees in particular look very bizarre. However, my biggest frustration with Fallen Order is its long load times. When you're fighting a tough boss and need to repeatedly retry the battle, the 40-second loads become massively grating. It says a lot about how enjoyable of a game Jedi Fallen Order is that these issues didn't actually detract that heavily from my overall enjoyment of the game. It's a game that continues to be on my mind long after finishing it. Jedi Fallen Order is a welcome addition to the Star Wars canon, and a must-play for both Star Wars fans and fans of third-person action games in general. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to like and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter @ChrisFremo.